Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine, beaming from Spectrum Television all the way from the beautiful hills of Ibiakoran. And of course, to our beautiful neighbors around this community, we say a very big good morning to you. And from wherever you're watching us from Facebook, from our Instagram, from YouTube, thank you very much for being a part of Rise and Shine Thursday edition. Welcome.
Yes, my name is Uyanik, and thanks a lot for being a part of our show this morning. We hope that we do actually have a really bumper ride.
Yes, bumper ride it is on a Thursday morning. Good morning, Uyai. And
good morning, Jack.
We're back here at work again, of course, to do what we know how to do best or what we love doing. Okay, so we're going to start our story this morning with a particular video that trended yesterday, where some senators from the opposition party PDP were actually asking for the resignation of President Muhammadu Buhari. Of course, this was made plain on the floor of the plenary at the Senate chambers yesterday, and they staged the workout. These senators actually staged the workout, and we saw a video where they were chanting "Buhari must go, Buhari must go." We'll take a listen to this particular video and then we come back.
You are started at and blocked it.
Except you have to take, except you have to go on.
Put it down. We must go. We can't go back. Let's open it. We are saved. We must go.
Except you have to take, except you have to go on.
Put it down. We must go. We can't go back. Let's open it. We are saved. We must go. We are saved. Open this one. Let me put it. This is our country. We are saved. We must go. Go back. That's all. One more.
Anyways, Senate Minority Leader Philip Oduda stated this while addressing reporters that the Senate plenary stormed out angrily. This senator stormed out angrily from the Senate plenary and chanting "Buhari must go" to protest the worsening security situation in the country. Now, you know, when I see things like this, I'm like, okay, so we've always been talking about, you know, government trying to be proactive. And I think that what the opposition party or members of the Senate is trying to do is to like hit it hard on the present administration on the need for us to begin to tackle insecurity in the country headlong, and to also state the fact that it might be happening like this because Abuja right now, there's so much fear in Abuja as to, you know, the threat that was issued out that Abuja was not going to be safe anymore because of insecurity and the threat on the life of the president as well. But I think that when I look at some of these things, it is coming a little bit too late. For some other developed climes, I think that the president willingly would have resigned and not wait for anybody to ask him to do that. Because at some point it looks as if, look, you do not have a grip of your nation anymore, you know, so why not step aside and let somebody else fill that shoe? But again, you ask the question, even if he steps aside, will any difference actually be made, you know, in terms of the security situation in the country?
Yeah, well, sometimes asking someone who's in leadership to resign could be asking for a lot. It may not be something anyone is willing to do because, of course, like if you look at the Buhari administration, they can point successes in other areas for you. And when it comes to this Senate minority leader, with all the other senators moving for the president to be impeached over the security situation in the country, of course, their move said he should work intensively and give us the results with regards to security within the next 6 weeks, or risk getting impeached. But of course, we see there that during plenary, the request even already fell face flat before he even had the opportunity to meet the line of the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, you know, downstage off immediately even came up. So of course we see the senators moving for impeachment of the president at this time, and I would really do join your sentiment. I think it's because at this time the trouble is closer to home. The trouble is closer to home when you speak of the fact that Abuja is currently very tensed. The atmosphere in Abuja is currently very tense. The average senator lives in the city of Abuja, so they don't know where to go from and come into without being, you know, under these threats directly. And when you see that bandits have directly sent a threat out to the president of the Federal Republic and one of theirs who is a governor in another state, I mean, at this point they actually begin to really think who is next and who is safe, right? And at this point, these are things that should have been called for the longest time. Imagine the 66 people that were abducted, the Kaduna Abuja bound train that was abducted, several months after, nothing has been done. The Senate did not move to impeach. Several other things have been done. The roads on the north have become very volatile for kidnappings and banditry and all of those things. Like you would say, it may seem to be coming late, but sometimes it's better late than never. I think all of this still adds to the energy of the fact that we are beginning to experience a revolution happening in our systems in Nigeria. Impeachment is not something that they have really worked around in time past in the Senate. They just allow someone come, however you do, when your 8 years is done, you can go. Someone else will come and attempt to continue, you know, the same shenanigans that is seen in that space. But at this point, being able to even move for impeachment is a step further in our democracy, so that people do not come into these offices feeling entitled to the power that they have amassed because of being elected into office. So I feel that yes, it's late, but it's a great handwriting on the wall for the coming seasons that we are going into as a nation.
Definitely. And then you begin to ask questions like, which president has ever been impeached in Nigeria before? You know, but I quite agree. Sometimes, you know, they just come in and at the end of 8 years, you know, they take their leave, whether they've done well or they've not done well. But the truth still remains that in developed climes, I think that the president will willingly step down. Or the people would even say, look, you need to go. But like you said earlier, the truth is, it has come very close to them. They see it like they literally feel it, that it's coming close to them. And that's why. And so at this point, we begin to ask questions. Why now? Why is the Senate actually rising up now to do these kinds of things? Meanwhile, there has been killings around the country for only God knows how long, you know, it has taken. And it's not as if these killings will also stop anytime soon. Okay, so why now? Anyway, it's a right move in the right direction, I must say. I also want to commend, you know, some of the senates from the opposition party PDP for even having the guts to do so. You know, and yeah, the democratic process in Nigeria is still growing, so we hope to see more of you know, some of those things happen, and not just happen, but you know, being taken to the latter to make sure that yes, a particular president is kicked out or impeached because of his inability to rule or govern well. Okay,
we might actually see the case, we might actually see this particular story evolve into more. As of now, it looks like the Senate president has been able to downsize, but in the next couple of weeks and days, it might reoccur. The conversation might reoccur at plenary, so we'll just keep our eyes and our ears open.
Anyways, plenary has been suspended till I think September 20th or so. Okay, so let's move straight now to a particular video that we also saw yesterday, where a popular, very commercial market in Lagos State was closed down because they needed to let people go do their PVC registration. We'll take that video and then we'll come back. Market in Lagos State, and to think that we just spoke about this particular issue yesterday, noting also that INEC is going to be closing off CVR registrations on the 31st of July, which is I think on Sunday. Is it on Sunday or Saturday now? I think it's on Sunday that the CVR registrations will finally end. Now, we've also had conversations where some people feel that, look, there's still enough time for INEC to work, you know, to be able to gather these registrations, print out a voter register, print out the PVC cards, and then also give to you know, citizens. But some people feel that, look, it's enough is enough, you know. And another thing, you know, remember that I said something yesterday, that Nigerians are just used to this last minute rush. Now, we had all the time. Why didn't the popular Balogun market close down for people to be able to go get their PVCs or do their registrations? Why is it like just few days to the end or the deadline of this particular registration that they had to close down the market just because they wanted to go register for their PVCs?
To be very fair, so many indices. For that particular market to close down for a day, we are losing millions of naira.
True that.
Because that's one of the foremost markets in Nigeria. So several indices will lead to that. Which top on that table is the fact that we'll be losing money. Now it's expected that they've been having that PVC conversations and awareness in the market. But at the point where you see that the day to close down is coming closer, and lots of people in the market have not actually gone, you know, to do their PVCs, irrespective of the fact that they have been educated. I'm sure they would have been like people carrying horn speakers around the market, go do your PVCs, because we've seen a couple of videos even come up by private individuals and organizations in the market, you know, creating awareness for these things to happen. So I just think it's fair at this time. We wouldn't have asked them to close, you know, earlier or more than the one time they have just closed. So it's fair. Of course, there were fear and apprehension yesterday at some markets in Lagos State as the traders shut their shops and besieged local government offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to get their permanent voters card. So you see that there's already been an attempt.
But you know, at this point, I want to ask, why wasn't there a location or a registration center in the market? Balogun market is a very big market, so they would have just done like small centers, registration centers in different parts of the market, so that people can actually get access to these registrations. Why did they have to like look for a particular day to shut down the whole market and shut down economic activities just to go get a PVC?
Well, when you put it that way, when you see their statements that they have released, it means that they have been making these attempts but this is them moving to the local government councils, you know, these areas, to insist that they want to get these things right. So it's not like it's not necessarily about whether these things were placed. And you need to know that, you know, like PVC registration, there's a way it's done. INEC has their offices and all of those things. I think it's with the surge that INEC is even experiencing that is making them step out of the offices and create booths closer to the people. So it might not even be like it might not be an error on the part of INEC and all, but this feels more, what the Balogun traders have done feels more like they are pressing down on the INEC officials and asking, guys, we need to get this thing and get it on time. I mean, look at it. They are getting ready ahead of the 2023 elections, and the leadership checks showed that the markets were closed down to enable the traders to go for their voters card. So this does not even sound like PVC.
Would have been closed before now. Yeah, it's still the same thing.
I'm still considering the economic.
No, whenever the market would have closed, do you get? We will still have economic losses. Okay, so
but
it was closed down yesterday.
We need to commend the gesture or the move,
of course,
by a lot of leaderships across board, organizations, private and public, to even insist that people that do business in their premises must get a PVC.
I commend them.
Never ever has it been seen in the history of Nigeria.
Of course, we had a trader who said that for the past 12 years she's been trading in Balogun market. It has never happened before. Anyways, we really commend them, but I think it's a little bit too late. Okay, so let's move away from there anyways. And we remember also that NLC, Nigerian Labour Congress, has been having solidarity protests as against the lingering strike between ASU and the federal government. And the protests rather started on Tuesday into Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we heard that on Tuesday, Abuja did not have theirs, but they decided to do theirs, even amidst the security challenges they've been having in that particular federal capital territory now. They had theirs yesterday. And we are going to link up with a journalist from Abuja, Nten Ekbang. He's going to join us virtually this morning to tell us or give us update on what actually happened, how that protest went, and of course, what we're looking forward to as regards that. Nten, good morning. Good morning, Nten.
Thank you.
Okay, many thanks for joining us this morning on the show. Of course, I'm not alone here. Anyekan is also here.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Anyekan.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Anyekan. Good to see you.
Good to
see you people.
Good morning.
Absolutely.
Okay, so quickly now, let's just have a look or an update of what transpired during the NLC protest that happened in Abuja yesterday.
Okay, yeah, so it was more like what happened every other state in Nigeria, but the difference with what happened in Abuja was because the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress himself, Ayuba Waba, was present. As a matter of fact, he led the protest walk in Abuja. He was joined by the Director General of Action Aid Nigeria, NLB, and also a former Kaduna president, what was that his name again? Sani. So they were the guys that led the protest. So it was led by them, Shehu Sani, Ayuba Waba, and Action Aid Nigeria. So they moved from Unity Fountain, you know, whenever they are protesting in Abuja, it is from the Unity Fountain. As you can see the video there, that's the NLC president talking. No, that was not the NLC president. That was not the video we used in Abuja. But I'm sure you should have that too. So they led the protest from Unity Fountain. That was where they moved. After gathering at Labour House, they moved to Unity Fountain and then headed to the National Assembly. Now, so at the National Assembly, they wanted to hand over a letter directly to the Senate President. But unfortunately, the Senate President was not there. The Speaker was not there. Both of them were represented. So the letter was handed over to them. One from the NLC and also another from the Student Union government, because the president of the Student Union government himself was also there. So it was a very, very thick crowd, as it were, and also the representation was quite good because leadership of the union and students also were there, and also some representative of ASU. So at the end of the day, it was a normal thing. They handed over a letter to the Senate President, to the Speaker. The Student Union addressed them, and all they are saying is, make sure that as leaders of this country who make laws, either tinker with the law or prevail on government to call off this strike. It's been too long. Insecurity has, increased because of students are at home and stuff like that. So basically, that was how it went down yesterday. And while addressing protesters yesterday, the national president of NLC again announced that there was going to be a follow-up strike by the NLC in solidarity with, the striking lecturer. So it's not just about this protest walk in solidarity. NLC is saying we are going to proceed on strike in order to send our message to the federal government that Labour is not pleased with what is happening in ASU.
Okay, so let's go on now. I know that I think I saw a video where the president of the Nigerian Association of National Association of Nigerian Students was actually saying that, look, he was disappointed at the turnout of students for the Abuja protest. Now, how was the turnout?
Yeah, it was more of a labor thing, So this protest walk was called for by the Nigerian Labour Congress, so that shouldn't be lost on us. So Nigerian students were not or are not the pioneers or champions of this strike, but it was expected that at least since the protest is for the benefit of the Nigerian students, should federal government and ASU agree to call off strike, people were expected to, or people felt that students would come out a lot, but unfortunately they did not come out that much. But we had quite a number yesterday because the NAN's president was in Abuja and followed them in the protest walk. So in Abuja, generally, there was quite some representation from students. But nationwide, as we've seen, students didn't come out well. Are they tired? We don't know. Probably they're just angry, some sort of apathy. We've been here, they've been talking and all of that. And then the last time, that when students met with Minister of Labour, of course, what happened, walked out on them and stuff like that. So it wasn't quite a good scenario for the students. So basically, the participation of students hasn't been that much. But Abuja had quite a number yesterday, probably because the president was there.
Okay, so there is a tendency for one to think all we ever do is just protest and then send letters to the authorities involved in some of these situations. And then when we say that the NLC is actually considering going on a 3-day warning strike if nothing is done on the heel of this protest, do you think that the system, the workforce in Nigeria is working against itself by not looking for other ways to ameliorate the problems that they face as a working society? Will another strike by the NLC drive home the point that the federal government needs to become more responsive to the situations that we're facing?
Yeah, I think it will, because since it's been ASU talking back and forth with the Ministry of Labour and all of that, NLC has not gone on strike. But now that the solidarity walk has started, and if they go ahead to say, let us shut down the labor force and shut down everything about labor, let's go on strike, I think it is also sending a message to the federal government that this thing is beyond ASU. It has gone beyond the academic staff union of universities. It is about the future of the country, the youth. It's about parents, going through agonizing, seeing students at home. It's about lecturers being hungry. It's about restiveness on the increase, on the rise. It's about insecurity in the nation. It's about international scorn. One of the states that we covered, the governor said, why we want these people to call off this strike is because Nigeria has become a joke among the Committee of Nations. People look at Nigeria and laugh. Like, people were killed in Abuja, which of 2 days ago, and the president jetted out to go and talk about security in Libya. To some, that is a bit insensitive to the plight of the nation. And then we saw yesterday pictures from Harvard University of the Speaker of the House of Representatives posting pictures of him at Harvard when the country where he is, the number 3 citizen of thereabout, is on strike. So I think that leadership in Nigeria hasn't been sensitive enough to this. So that's why NSC is saying it's good for us to go on strike. But the impact, what will it be, is just to send a message. That's about what it can do. Okay. All right, federal government, we're going on strike. What is happening? We don't like it. Beyond that, after that, what will they do? They are kind of constrained, So, but let it be that a message has been sent. And the point is, as people get to hear of strike, they will talk, man, probably government will answer.
Okay, so another question. Let's look at the security situation during the protest yesterday. We saw the heavy presence of members of the Nigerian police force, and we know that tension has really been high in Abuja. So how were the protesters able to conduct themselves? How far did the presence of the police force help? Generally, give us an overview view of the security situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Strike is recognized under the International Labour Organization, in labor laws. So a strike like that is recognized lawfully by law. Yeah, so that's why police is bound by law, because they are carrying out one of the duties of a workforce. I mean, labor now. So police is bound by law to protect them. Right, so that was why, first of all, there was police presence. In as much as the IG had said it was kind of unlawful because they had not given express permission, but they had no choice. So security had to be there. And the most important thing we have to understand that this is the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria, the nation's capital. So nothing like breakdown of law and order should be contemplated. That's why there was heavy security. They marched with them, peacefully, because they were not violent, they are not touts. These are very responsible people. Like I did tell you, Action Aid Nigeria, the president of the NLC, Senator Shehu Sani, and a couple of others, Nigerian Union president. So these are leaders known in the country. So the strike wasn't going to be hijacked by anybody. So that's why police had to be with them every step of the way until they got to the National Assembly and all of that. So probably it was because police is duty bound to, make sure that these people are protected. After all, they're not doing anything out of the law. It is within the confines of the law for aggrieved workers to strike. So probably that's why, they had to go with them. And since, there are bandits on the loose in Abuja because of the prison break, they have not all been arrested. Of course, we're in the news. We know how many arrest one here, arrest one here, arrest one here, and all of that. So there are still hundreds because over 1,000 were broken out, out of the prison. So there are still hundreds in the streets of Abuja and other places in Nigeria. That's why they don't want those kind of people to infiltrate that kind of movement. So there had to be, enough security. So there was yesterday, and it went peaceful.
All right, Nten, as we wrap up this conversation now, in your view and your opinion, do you think that this nationwide protest, handled by NLC, has made any significant impact to the government?
It does. It has. For the fact that 36 states of the Federation, as far as we know, or at least a greater chunk of the states, participated in this, the government knows that, yes, this is serious. And for the fact that the leadership of NLC in Abuja had to stage this yesterday, NLC was deliberate about making sure that the one of Abuja holds on Wednesday, right? Such that it's not, crammed with the rest of them across the nation. So Wednesday, especially Abuja, so the leadership of the NLC came forward and said, okay, we're doing this in solidarity with ASU. It will make a lot of impact. Right now, the speaker, after showing those pictures of him in Harvard, had to apologize to Nigerians. It means they are listening. Right, but because right now finances of government or attention of government is on 2023, issues of every other sector is kind of halted, which is quite unfortunate. But the message has been passed, and I'm very sure that in the days ahead we're going to see action from government. In fact, we start getting feelers already that there might be a meeting soon between the warring parties to look at ways of addressing this issue. So for sure we should expect action from government very, very soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Nten Ekpang, journalist from Abuja. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Anyways, that's the much we can take. We'll go now to the news brief desk. And of course, when we come back, other conversations on Rise and Shine will definitely continue. Just stay with us.
the knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
Nigerian police is the only one allowed by
General, voting for Spectrum TV to improve on the life safety counting.
Good morning. This is your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. I am Uyani Akan. We begin with President Muhammadu Buhari as he has summoned the service chiefs to an emergency security meeting today, hours after the Presidential Brigade Guards came under attack by terrorists. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, confirmed this during a televised interview. Meanwhile, following the recent heightened insecurity across the country, the National Youth Service Corps is asking the Nigerian Army to deploy additional personnel to NYSC orientation camps in the country. The chairman NYSC National Governing Board, Fatima Abubakar, made the call when the board paid courtesy call on the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, in Abuja. In the meantime, Nigeria Army has found and rescued 2 women who were part of the female students abducted by Boko Haram terrorists from Government Girls Secondary School in Chibok, Borno State, more than 8 years ago. In a statement, the Army said troops of 202 Battalion during clearance operations on July 25th intercepted 4 abducted women, including the 2 girls who are currently in a military medical facility. In another development, United States has committed $55 million for food security relief for Nigerians. A statement by the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria explained that the donation was part of President Joe Biden's recent pledge at the G7 Leaders Summit in Germany, aimed at protecting the most vulnerable nations from an escalating global food crisis. In education, Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has urged the federal government to resolve all lingering issues with the Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) without further delay. In a statement in Abuja, TUC President Festus Osifo urged the government to engage ASU in constructive negotiations to find a lasting solution to their demands. On the foreign scene, French President Emmanuel Macron has visited Benin Republic 8 months after France returned 26 works of art seized by colonial soldiers in the Republic in 1892. Reports of other looted artworks remain in France, and traditional leaders and government authorities in Benin Republic are hopeful that the return of the 26 is only the beginning of a process of restitution. Finally, Manchester United have confirmed the £56.7 million signing of Ajax defender Lisandro Martinez on a 5-year contract. United have paid a guaranteed £48.3 million for the Argentina international, with an additional £8.4 million in add-ons agreed between the 2 clubs. We'll have details of the stories and more in our news at 12. I am Uyai Anyekan. We head back now to the Rise and Shine crew to stay with us.
As of state and government, Secretary General,
voting for Spectrum TV to improve on the life safety counting.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police power with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Ibom.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Elections in Nigeria is characterized by fraud.
It is not pure election because of the way they conduct it.
The elections are here again. For us in Akwa Ibom State, it is another opportunity to elect credible and potential leaders.
But I see some of them are not really credible.
In fact, when you talk about the credibility in the Nigerian system, it's absent.
As for the aspirants, what are your plans to better the lives of citizens and ensure that it is not just another era of political promises?
Some aspirants came up with so childish kind of manifesto, something that you know that they cannot do.
Even if after campaigning and promising heaven and earth, you find out that by the time they come in, they cannot do 50% of what they promised.
Because they are coming to see this. If they don't use this, they will not achieve what they want. So it is the normal thing they must use to convince a man that does not have a proper ideology to vote them.
So it's just a mere slogan. It's just a mere slogan to use and have their right into power.
What do you, the people, think about the elections?
The electoral process has been marred by malpractice and all of that.
That's a bad thing in Nigeria. All election night is about money.
Definitely, no matter what the reform they are carrying out, they will still be rigging.
It's about the aspirants, the manifesto, the people's view, an in-depth analysis.
That godfatherism is what has eaten deep into our political system. It has become a cankerworm that has left our political system into a corrupt system.
If it is not godfatherism, somebody like me, I will become the counselor. So because I don't have a godfather, it will not work.
Because people feel that they will come and invest, they need to get something back home. So the major aim is not about the people, it's about their family and themselves.
Godfatherism will not help the politics to grow. It won't help democracy to grow.
Vote buying will even be more this time around because these people, most of them have stolen a lot of money and they will use this money to buy votes.
Who gets to represent you in government at all levels?
Well, for me, the new breed aspirants, I would love the new breed aspirants. But for those, there are some of them that will not, I would say, definitely, I wouldn't want them to come back definitely to power.
Join us on Akwa Ibom Decides every Saturday and Sunday by 3 p.m. each day, exclusive to Spectrum Television, as we take on the aspirants set to lead you.
infrastructure is a basic amenity that every society needs to run and sustain its daily activities, including growing and sustaining its economy. The people of Ikodosian village in Inibehe expressed difficulty in a number of issues hampering their livelihood as a community. Speaking with Spectrum Television, the village head Effiong Akwa expressed some of the difficulties that they have with the roads.
Any successful government and the only route leading to no circles, which is not that. Only route, because run road. Because to Bang Road. Being a game, and I'm going on in a divorce. Can enter me for going you something in what? I won't go no government in any cook in my
The people of Ikotokobo are mostly farmers. They major in the farming of crops such as okra, pepper, palm oil processing, as well as fishing. The road, according to the indigents, has remained inaccessible for years. Reports say that the road was later awarded to Hense Construction in 2019. The indigents stressed that the condition of the road has made the movement of farm produce to the markets very challenging. They also complain that their products are wasted during rainy seasons because they do not have access to channel them to the market.
So mbok imisunu yo igbe governor nyin Ibom mbok ya mo sunu nwami no nyin kusanga do mfra nyin eti usanga na mkpo uru anyin amadi ku iyak ini esuto iyak afogbayem arukete berefrero inini uru asinyam because of usang
akpan bor usang me usanga mi aba freke sem ko nyina tak usang iba iko fongi ba zaki kami kayam pomi yentak mban bat to nwang baro ma ko won te ko sanga ba ku sang nyini ni remi a link usanga sanga ke kai pe koronkun a ke link igwere junction ipe aruchuku road nyini mini junction do but tongron din di voice di banja mban bat asina fongi ba machine wata ina ngwa ki wata awa kokot mbok ya government.
They, however, called on the state government to revisit the area and help them have access to good roads.
A knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the .com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Ibom.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord. I think I would being in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Hey, thanks for still being there. This is Rise and Shine. Of course, we just came back from the table of the news brief, and we have all the very trending conversations we'll be having at this minute. Yesterday, it was rumored, or more like a breaking news, about some of the major stories making the rounds in Akwa Ibom State. I would just give us an introduction to that particular one.
Okay, just yesterday we had information that the Chief Judge of Akwa Ibom State, Her Honor Ekaite, has sent Inibehe Effiong, who is a human rights lawyer, to prison, reportedly over a plea for safety during court proceedings. Of course, the lawyer Effiong was the one who first of all released, a statement in that regard. He alleged in his official Twitter handle on Wednesday that the judge sent him to prison when he came to court to defend Leo Ekpeyong, who is in a libel suit against a libel and defamation suit against the governor of Akwa Ibom State. Of course, a lawyer in libel suit filed by Udom Emmanuel, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, narrating the incident. He said the judge had earlier sent some reporters out of the court, and he, Inibehe Effiong, pleaded that since it was a public hearing, these people should be allowed to be in the court. And thereafter, it said that he also pleaded and expressed his feeling of unsafety with the presence of armed policemen in the courtroom. And of course, at that point, it is said that the chief judge who was presiding over the case asked that he be thrown out of bar and that he will be sent to the prison, of course, correctional facility. So this case has actually brought a lot of uproar in the city, beyond the city of Akwa Ibom. Actually, the case is nationally. It has caused an uproar nationally. People are responding and giving their 2 cents about the situation. But we know that the law has a stand. We know that the law has a proceeding. And we know that the law is guarded by decorum and civility. So, of course, we're going to be having these conversations with a lawyer who will be joining us on screen virtually to explain some of the intricacies about the situation. And we also have here with us Annie Justin, who is a public affairs analyst. He will be speaking on behalf of the people, just sharing his opinions about the whole situation. So I think we'll start from Annie. What's your basic understanding about what is happening?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. About the Inibehe issue, I think that first and foremost, it is said that lawyers or even judges should be very circumspect about contempt cases, because contempt as a concept is not really defined like it's based on the situation. So a case of contempt in one court may not be the case of contempt in another, depending on the issues and the proceedings. So it is said that judges should be circumspect about contempt cases. Now, away from that, I think Inibehe Effiong is, as a human rights activist, is someone that is trying to cut his path specifically in the Nigerian scene, and is becoming a rave these days, even outside Akwa Ibom states. So when he comes in to try to defend, like he's trying to defend Leo, a fellow lawyer who has that defamation case, I think the judge should understand that Inibehe is a very smart young man. I'm seeing Inibehe using emotional intelligence to draw interest of the wider legal luminary to that case. I don't look at the contempt itself. I look at it as that Inibehe is trying to make people aware of the main case by drawing their own focus through his own contempt thing. The contempt thing is premeditated because already he was able to make the judge unhappy before then. I think in one of those proceedings.
Premeditated on whose part now?
Yes.
Part?
Yes, on his part. Yes, I think so. Because I know the judge has said she had threatened that she's going to lock him up.
Before that time.
So Inibehe, having a very high emotional intelligence, is an intellectual guy, was trying to still draw that out. Actually, he's right by asking that the fourth expert, being the journalist, should be allowed in court. I mean, it was a public hearing. He might also be right by asking that he's feeling unsafe by seeing gun-wielding policemen in the court.
Okay, so Annie, before we continue, we have barrister Imo Iyapan, who is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, join us. He's also principal partner at Kadi Nali Chamber law firm. He's joining us from Abuja. Good morning, barrister, and many thanks for joining us. Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Oh, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I hope we don't have a disruption to the network.
No, I pray so as well.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's start. We also have a political affairs analyst in the studio here with us, Annie Justin. He's also going to be sharing his thought on this matter, as he has started already. And of course, I also have another presenter here, Uyai Anyeka, and she's also part of the conversation this morning.
Good morning, barrister.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so of course, clearly the situation is out there about Justice Ikaito Boat's judgment against Inibehe Effiong as to sending him to prison for 1 month. I know that the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has also come upon this matter. I also know that a senior advocate of Nigeria in the person of Falano is also on this matter. He has taken it up. But as a legal perspective, or rather from a legal perspective now, what do you think is wrong or right with this particular judgment?
Well, thank you. Well, that is a judgment of a court. That is a decision of a court. And first of all, as a lawyer, it wouldn't be right for me to pick holes in terms of saying the decision of a court is right or saying the decision of a court is wrong, without looking at the background facts, without looking at the basis, without looking at the indicators, without looking at the indices upon which that decision was arrived at. Now, the general impression, even for non-lawyers, is that the decision probably was too harsh. It was too spontaneous, and it was a wrong exercise of judicial power. Now, let's first understand that the court, in fact, every court created by the Constitution, has the right and owes itself that duty to protect its majesty and its integrity. Every court has that right. Now, for every court, it would also depend on who the judex, who the presiding officer of the court is. But there are basic parameters, there are basic thresholds which our laws have stipulated that is expected of presiding officers of court. First of all, you must be very temperate, you must be well comported, you must not be easily angered, you must not be easily irritated, you must always 100% take charge of the proceedings of your court. All the time take charge of the proceedings of your court. You must direct how you want your court to be. Correspondingly, lawyers are also required as ministers in the temple of justice to observe absolute court decorum, to be courteous to the court, courteous to his or her colleagues at the bar, and maintain the highest level of dignity. Now, looking at this case specifically, what we have read in the media space shows that there has been a background to it, and maybe for purpose of clarity, it might be necessary to just mention a few things. First of all, this was a judgment. This was a judgment that was delivered, well, what is called a default judgment. A default judgment is a judgment that is delivered without the defense making an input, without the defense putting up a defense. And in this case, the defendant has a right, subsequently, if he shows proper cause and reason, to say, well, I was not there when this judgment was delivered. It was delivered by default. Now I am ready. I have a defense in law. Please, can you set aside that judgment and let the trial go on with my full defense? So that judgment was delivered. The case of defamation filed by the governor of Akwa State against a lawyer by Effiong. That judgment was for the sum of 1.5 billion. You know, I think sometime last year. Fast forward towards end of the year, that judgment was set aside by this same court of his lordship, Justice Obot, and trial then commenced proper. And that is where my learned friend and colleague, Inibehe Effiong, Esquire, came into the picture. And it was the contention of counsel that he feels, or his client feels, that if judgment was given in the first instance against him, even when he had no defense or he didn't put up a defense, now that there is an order for retrial, the case should be remitted or reassigned to another judge, because according to him, his client felt that, well, he didn't have much confidence in this particular court handling that. Now, you hear all of these complaints all of the time, and a litigant is at will and very free to express doubts and misgivings, because the law and justice is rooted elementarily in confidence. If people come to court and they feel that, well, given the setup of this arrangement, one is not likely going to get justice, a litigant is free to open up and say, well, I don't think that because of the way things are going, I am going to get justice, but I want to defend myself all the same. Can you transfer this case to any other judge? And I'm sure, I believe that application was made sometime on the 23rd of June from the reports we have heard, that motion for transfer or reassignment, what you call recusal. Recusal is that the court being complained against washes its hands of the matter. And then in the case of the chief judge, you transfer the case file. If it was any other court, you send the case file to the chief judge, who reassigns that to any other judge. Now, that application has not been taken. It has not been argued, and so therefore it is still pending. But here are the parties before the court. What we have heard most about this case are the reportage from the media. After every court sitting, you have more or less a blow-by-blow reportage of the details of what transpired in court. Now, as a general rule, the media is not usually allowed to come into the court, for instance, to do recording of court proceedings. except with the leave of court, except with the permission, express permission of the court. But because the court is also a public place, guaranteed by the Constitution, anybody has a right to walk into the courtroom and sit down, maintain the decorum of court, and observe proceedings. If you have a piece of paper and you want to take note, no problem. But you cannot come there with a recording device without the permission of the court and then begin to record, especially in such a manner that would distract or even catch the attention of the presiding officer. So it's an open proceeding and anybody has a right to come in there. And from what we saw and what we have heard, I have not heard, since I was not there, I have not heard what the version of the court is. But what I have seen in the media is that on this particular day, His Lordship walks into the courtroom and of course warns counsel that the court will not take for granted issues surrounding its dignity and majesty. And so therefore, the court will not also hesitate to discipline any erring lawyer who takes the dignity of the court for granted. And at that point, according to the report, His Lordship ordered that security men, armed security men, be introduced into the courtroom, probably to check and maintain some kind of order and sanity. And I'm also told that counsel also raised the fact that, well, he doesn't feel safe, he doesn't feel comfortable, his safety is not guaranteed if you have officers of the law wielding AK-47 assault rifles right within the four corners of the courtroom. Every judicial officer is entitled to an arms-bearing police officer, you know, and usually we see them with pistols, you know, concealed under their belt or wherever. But you hardly find, if I haven't seen, security personnel with AK-47 assault rifles, you know, brandishing them in court. That is not a robbery scene. In fact, in my years of practice, I've also had cause to also raise objection and draw the court's attention to the fact that there was a police officer who accompanied a government official into court proceedings. And as far as I was concerned, the way he held the arm in a very menacing fashion, and it appeared to me that the nozzle was pointed in my direction. I had to cry out to the court and said I wasn't comfortable because I wasn't even sure anymore if this was a courtroom or a police station. And His Lordship agreed with me, and the government official apologized that he didn't know that his orderly had come into the courtroom with him with an AK-47 rifle, and he had an option. It's either you step out with your rifle or you drop your rifle outside if you must continue to remain with your boss, and then walk in without that arm. And that was exactly what happened. He had to walk out of the courtroom and proceedings commenced or continued, as it were. So for the events in the Akwa Ibom State High Court before the Honorable Chief Judge, even when counsel was asked to proceed with the case, he pointed out to His Lordship that, my Lord, we have a pending application asking my Lord to recuse himself from going on with this case and asking for a transfer of the case file. And I'm told that His Lordship also insisted that, well, procedures and proceedings in this court are determined by the court. So go ahead with the proceedings for the day. And that continued. And I'm also told that somewhere midway through this proceeding, His Lordship also cited somebody who was identified as a journalist. I'm not sure now whether he had a recording device, but I'm told that his phone was seized from him. I don't know how he handled the phone. There are courts you go to and the judge tells you, look, I don't want to see you display your handsets, even on the table. If you have a handset, put it in your pocket and put it in your bag, or you turn down the volume or whatsoever. So I don't know how that handset was held or how that device was held, but I'm told that he was ordered to walk out of the court and then the device was confiscated. And also at that point, learned counsel also said, well, since this is a public hearing, this is also an open court that people, including journalists, have the right to come in and view proceedings and observe proceedings. That is actually the correct procedure of law. It is only in very extreme and exceptional situation cases that border on national security, cases that have to do with minors, where only the party strictly, lawyer and then maybe one or two other persons are allowed to remain in the court, and every other person is kept outside. In fact, proceedings like that in most times are also held in the chambers of the court, not in the open, because of the sensitive nature and demands of such proceeding. But this is an open court. And then counsel felt that, well, my lord, having given an order that a journalist be walked out of the court, that it wasn't proper. Now, in fairness to the court, I do not know, because I cannot report verbatim the exact words used in the proceedings before my lord. I also do not know the pitch and tone and loudness of voice that was deployed in making all of the applications and submissions of my lord, before my lord. Because even when you are saying the most harmless, speaking the most harmless words, even method and manner gesticulation and swinging of the arms may also suggest disrespect. So the choice of words, the pitch of tone, and then your body language would also be sending meaning, because in communication, it is not just about the voice. The body language, the movement of the hands and the legs and so on also determines. And these are the things those who were in court, or my lord who presided, would be able to say amounted to disrespect or to indecorous conduct within the court. Now I know my learned friend, Inibehe Effiong Esquire. I know that he's an activist. I know that he's a radical. I know that he is also a thoroughbred lawyer. And I know that as an activist, his pitch and the sound of his voice is usually normally on the high side. I mean, you hardly hear him. Even when we watch him on television and we hear him on radio, the pitch of his voice is usually on the high side. Now, if that is his mode and manner and method of communication, it only requires understanding to know that, well, this is the way he talks. It's not necessarily that he's angry or he's being offensive or he's being disrespectful, but that is just the way he talks. We find a lot of other public speakers who are very agitated in the way and manner of their expression, but you have others who are also calm, so that no matter the degree and level of frustration and annoyance or irritation, they maintain their cool and continue to convey the messages they want to convey. So I know my learned friend, it is also possible that he may have spoken at a pitch which is misunderstood. I mean, I always use myself as an example. I had also said something in court some years ago, and my colleagues at the bar felt I ought to apologize for the words, the choice of words I had used, and the fact that it sounded disrespectful. And I explained to my lord, I said, well, maybe given my years and age at the bar at the time, they must take the substance of my submission and leave the mode and method of my communication. The judge at the time understood and said, well, if you were a much senior lawyer, we would understand that probably you are being mischievous. But since you are a younger person, let us take it that you don't also appreciate fully what is required of you, that in your comportment, in your communication, you ought to maintain some level of equanimity and then tranquility in the court. So these are the things that play out when looking at the scenarios, what exactly happened, and then how the court and why the court arrived at the decision.
I also want to commend you, for giving us like a background to this particular story, and also, trying to analyze from both ends the situation and how, the complexities of some of these actions being taken. But again, will you agree with some people that, 1 month imprisonment given as just judgments to Inibehe for whatever, action he took in court is actually fair enough? Or it's more like I'm going to put it like, people are saying impunity and rascality on the part of the judge?
Well, it is not going to be impunity. Well, rather, I refuse to use the word impunity, and I'll also refuse to use the word rascality. First of all, the court has the powers to punish for contempt in facie curia, Latin expression meaning in the face of the court, right in the presence of the judge in the courtroom, as opposed to ex facie curia, which is outside of the courtroom. If it is an infraction outside of the courtroom, then another judge has to try that matter. The relevant forms 48 and 49 would have to be served on the offending party, on the contemnor, the party committing the contempt, and then a full trial, is conducted where the party has an opportunity to defend himself. Now, in this particular case, the alleged act of contempt occurred right before my lord, right in the courtroom, which is contempt for whatever it is worth in facie curia. It therefore means that you do not need external evidence. You don't need external corroboration for you to say whether this amounted to contempt or not. What it only requires is that in the mind of the court, what the court adjudges to be contempt is what contempt is. So therefore, you have what is called a summary trial. Now, this is also very delicate and dicey, because it would mean that it is the impression the court gets about the conduct of a particular person within the court that will be used to arrive at a decision. And this is where the courts have been admonished in severally, especially by the Supreme Court. The power to commit for contempt must be used sparingly. In fact, the Supreme Court says it is right, it is correct for a lawyer to criticize the court openly. It is right for a lawyer to show displeasure at what the court is doing openly, but it must not be disrespectful. I mean, it means that we can disagree without being disagreeable. Again, this is also a matter of semantics. How do you express it? If you want to disagree with the court, what we have been taught and what the rules of practice says, you always, you are humble enough and respectful enough to say, oh, well, my lord, the greatest respect, we may not agree with this and that and that. What you are actually telling the court is that, my lord, with the greatest respect, I disagree with you. But you see, you must choose your words very carefully. So in this case, yes, the court is right. But you see, in exercising the rightness of the court also must be temperate enough to accommodate and tolerate. In fact, the greater emphasis is on the court to demonstrate elasticity of accommodation. Otherwise, for every lawyer who comes to court and says the things that are not palatable to the ears will end up in prison custody for 1 month or more at the discretion of the court or as the court pleases.
Okay,
so no matter what counsel does, and you see, this is what is critical. You have a counsel who is representing a client, and that counsel, for whatever reason, has been committed to prison. What happens to the client? How is the right of the client protected? How does the client feel? Because the first thing that happens to the client, because that's how you see the public, why you see the public outcry, the first thing is despondency. If counsel can be committed for contempt, then the rest of us who are non-initiates, who are not members of, this ministerial temple of justice, what becomes of us? And so therefore, that camaraderie must be there. There must be corresponding respect, counsel to court, and then accommodation of court for counsel at the bar. Okay. I also understand that even before the order was made, counsel had solicited and pleaded on behalf of Effiong for the court to temper justice with mercy. But I think, which is what has become obvious, that there has been a build-up, of irritation over time. In fact, I have read something in the media sometime where statements like, be careful how you talk in this court, this is not Channels Television or AKBC. I have not seen the record of the court, but that is also reported that it must have come from the court. So you see that you must have had a build-up. And it just got to breaking point yesterday that the court had to arrive at this decision.
Right,
I think as a person that I would go with the admonition of the Supreme Court that no matter how critical counsel is of court, so long as it is not outright disrespect and denigration of the position of the court and desecration of the integrity and the majesty of the court ought to continue to exercise elasticity and accommodate the interests of counsel.
All right, the court needs to be able to be as elastic as possible. Thank you for that response. But looking at the sensitivity of the situation at hand, we know that this is a case that was filed by the governor of the state, Sir Udom Emmanuel, on account of defamation by Leo Ekpeong. Seeing the parties involved in the case, one would say is a very sensitive case that has been handled by the court. And we know that Barrister Inibehe Effiong had actually moved and has pointed out to the judge that he sensed some form of bias coming from the judge who was presiding over the case, and had also moved that the case should be moved to another judge to preside over. Now, looking at the fact that this case is a sensitive one that involves the governor of Akwa Ibom State and is being presided over by the chief judge of the state, who is also, of course, has some measure of field, one would say it at the same table with the governor of the state. Will you say that there is actually ground of bias? And of course, the opinion of so many people also carries that we see the governor attempting to execute executive powers into how the process has flown so far.
Well, I've mentioned in my background that a couple of things must have happened, and the litigant is entitled, if for any reason you feel that you're not going to get justice, the law demands and gives you that right to express it very clearly. And the concept of recusal is, since justice is rooted in confidence, what would the ordinary man go away with? What impression would he have looking at all the facts of this case? Where a litigant says, I do not have confidence in your ability to dispense justice, given circumstances A, B, and C, what is required is for the judge, the presiding officer, to wash off his hands from the case and hand, because there is nothing, there ought to be nothing a judge or presiding officer has that is personal in a particular case. If there is a conflict of interest, suo motu, on your own volition and authority, you hands off the case. You don't wait to be prompted to hands off the case. Now, where now you are prompted, where litigant now says, look, I do not have confidence, and it doesn't just say it, it goes on ahead to document it, and that application is pending. Let's not go to the fact that the executive governor of Akwa Ibom State, has now developed this penchant for taking people to court. Every now and then you are arraigned in magistrate court for criminal defamation, you are sued for libel. Public officers who detest, who are irritated at criticism, who are irritated at public scrutiny, who do not want to be asked questions that borders on accountability for stewardship, have no business being in public office. But you see, when you are irritated at the slightest thing the citizen does, it gives rise to things like this. So when the governor becomes interested in every case bordering on defamation of character and libel and so on and so forth, this is what has given rise to this. So I, if I were the presiding officer and somebody says, well, for whatever reason, I think probably you share some affinity, you share some relationship, or given your position, I'm not sure, I'm just not confident. I don't know why I feel this way, but I have a strong inner feeling suggested by certain facts that I'm not going to get justice. The best thing to do, the right thing to do, the law is that you hands off the case file. You can't insist on adjudicating a matter that parties are no longer comfortable with. And the person we're talking about is actually the defendant. It's a citizen who feels that the actions of the governor are in the first place oppressive, where the governor deploys the instrument of state against an individual. I mean, the entire apparatus of state against an individual. It is wrong and it is very petty.
Anyways,
so
I
under
think
such
that's
circumstances,
some of the reasons why, you know, the juicing body of the judiciary has always, you know, asked for complete autonomy of the judiciary so that things like this do not happen again. So it's more like who pays the piper is dictating the tune. Okay, so let's look at this other issue. I think we have a political analyst in the studio this morning, and Ani, you were saying something about Inibehe, you know, being deliberate about his actions yesterday in court to draw some kind of attention. Of course, it has actually drawn that kind of attention right now. So let's just give you some time to express yourself more on that, and so Barrister can take up from there and respond to, you know, your perception of the issue.
Okay, I was saying that I feel Inibehe is using his position to agitate or to make the court to place those sanctions on him, the sentence, and by doing that, attract a wider interest, a wider legal interest to the main issue. I mean, when we read about the interest of people, legal luminaries like Femi Falana, San, and the Serap, as we are speaking, they wouldn't have known about this case. The case between the governor and Barrister Leo Effiong. So I think Inibehe also inadvertently or maybe intentionally is using his emotional intelligence to drag the interest of the wider legal luminary to this case. So I might see that he's being intentional about it. We must give it to him. Inibehe is a very brilliant young man.
But aside from saying brilliant here, would you also say that he's very controversial?
He's controversial, yes. As a human rights activist, he's very controversial. And I think he needs most of those controversy to be able to stem through most of the things that come his way. So I'm thinking away from the proceedings of that court, he was able to inflame the judge by his action so that he could generate a positive interest from the wider masses to what was happening about that case. And we must not forget that Inibehe as a person is a person that is social media savvy. You know, when this issue happened, he took to social media, and his composition and body language was that of someone that had some fulfillment from being sent to that correctional center. I heard when he said, maybe this is an opportunity for me to see the other side and also get to see what people pass through being in the correctional center. And he was smiling and laughing. And I was asking myself, what's that sense of accomplishment he's having? I was expecting to see him agitated or furious about being sent to a correctional center. So I tried to put one and one together and said, this young man knows what he's doing. This young man is trying to get an aim. So I would want Barrister also to look at it from that angle. And
Barrister Afan, please, let's have your feel on this particular opinion from Annie Justin.
Well, I agree with him. Barrister Inibehe, my colleague, is a very brilliant lawyer and he's very outspoken. He's a civil rights activist and so therefore has a wide network of civil rights organizations that he works with. I know for a fact that he does a lot of pro bono cases. He defended and got the I think I've forgotten the number now, but I think there were about 20 or 30 students who were clamped in detention. He got them out. He's done quite a number of cases for Akwa Ibom people who have been thrown into jail. I remember he did that of Kufre Kata. He did that a few other journalists around, and so he has become a voice, a notable, that loud voice that has taken the cause of the oppressed. And it is little wonder that you see the public outcry, the public indignation at what has happened to him. Now, no lawyer goes to court and expects that from the courtroom he should end up in prison. And Effiong is based in Lagos. So I appeared in the same court with him at the Federal High Court 2 days ago, and then he picked the last flight and arrived in New York to do his matter. And he didn't appear to me that, well, I want to spend my next 1 month of as vacation commences in prison. Nobody wants to do that. But you see, as a lawyer who has been through the thick and thin of life, you take issues with equanimity. You don't expect him to be in court and be shedding tears. That's a man. And yes, every stage of life and whatever it is life throws at you is also an opportunity to learn, and then you maximize. So I have also been in prison before. I've had cause to be in prison. I spent 3 days. Maybe it wasn't up to 1 month, but I've also spent 3 days. So you go in there and you see a different world view, and then you come out definitely stronger. Our correctional system in Nigeria is counterproductive. So anybody who sends you to jail and feels that you come out broken, well, is not telling the truth. You come out firmer. I know he's going to come out a stronger person. He's also aware of the groundswell of opinion. Serap is on it. The Twitter is burning. Akwa Ibom State is trending. And I dare say for the negative reasons. And he has mentioned the Femi Falana SAN. They are all proceeding to court to challenge the legality of the decision of the Chief Judge of Akwa Ibom State. And like I said, you see, because of the institution involved, we must be careful. We must be circumspect so that we don't do and say things. The comments we have read so far on social media shows that over 95% of the people are not happy and don't see any reason, any rationale for that decision against Inibehe Effiong. That is a lawyer, for God's sake. And you see, the law profession is like a small segment of society, and we should look after one another. So I don't think that Inibehe brought this on himself deliberately.
Okay,
this
so
is what
we
Inibehe
feel
has
like
done consistently about his practice. Just one more point. This is what he has done deliberately about his style of practice, and that's the fact that the media, he happens to court the friendship of the media. So he's on every other television station every other day, and he's on Twitter every other day tweeting about the things he does on a day-to-day basis. Not every lawyer does that, reporting on every move he makes in court and so on. But you see, the things he has also said, judging from his social media post, shows that over time there has been a build-up, and that gives us a perspective, a background to understanding exactly what this case is about. So while I will not cast aspersions on the person of the Chief Judge of Akwa Ibom State by drawing unnecessary parallels and relationships with the governor, but I think that given the sensitive nature of those involved, one must be more circumspect, and this would have been avoided. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a minor thing, but one or two persons got overboard. One or two persons got overboard. When my lord comes into court and first of all tells you, look, today I need the company of 2 armed policemen. I'm not ready to tolerate nonsense. You just know that there has been a build-up.
Okay,
and it just took Yes, it just took a little act of probably indiscretion or something to boil over.
Okay, so the situation that Barrister Inibehe Effiong is currently going through is familiar, quite similar to something that Gani Fayemi experienced in 1990.
Oh, sure.
Now, we are looking at the fact that we want to ask, how do you think this injunction by the Chief Judge is going to affect the case that Inibehe Effiong was handling? You know, we might... in the case of Gani Fayemi, the case was upturned. What are the expectations of the court and of course fellow lawyers like yourself and other luminaries with regards to the current case that Inibehe was handling in court? Do you see the tendency of this case being swayed in a direction that Inibehe might not have wanted it to go if he was still effectively in charge of the court proceedings as a defendant, of course?
I can't tell you what the eventual outcome of this matter will be, but I can tell you some of the processes that have been triggered by this case. First of all, this action and decision is going to be challenged very vigorously, and I'm sure as I speak, once the record of proceedings for that day is ready, is going to be challenged. Therefore, means that the jurisdiction and the action or decision of the court would be out there for public scrutiny at the Court of Appeal. And knowing who Inibehe Effiong is, I dare tell you that even if he doesn't get a favorable outing at the Court of Appeal, it will proceed to the Supreme Court. Now, there are several interests involved. Like I said, I don't know how it will end up, but I know that, I mean, without being a soothsayer, I know that this case cannot continue. Given, you know, this explosive state before that court, I don't see Barrister Inibehe Effiong returning after 1 month and then going to continue in that court as if nothing happened. I don't also expect that the court would pretend as if on the 27th of July nothing happened. We just flow as if it's business as usual. So there's going to be definitely going to be an interruption. There are going to be petitions flying here and there. I can assure you of that because of the things I have heard and seen already. There's going to be a huge backlash. There's going to be a huge backlash, and it is unfortunate because the judiciary is on trial, the law profession is on trial. We have seen things happening with the Legal Professional Disciplinary Committee. We've seen things happening linked to the chairman of the body of benchers and his partner. We have seen a lot which doesn't paint a good picture of the law profession. And now Akwa Ibom State has now come under the radar with what has happened before my Lord the Chief Judge's Court. So I believe that that case will not go on in that court, and the case would eventually have to be transferred. And see, it is the same transfer we're talking about. If we had transferred this case, all of these things wouldn't have happened. You see, I keep saying that justice is rooted in confidence. If you have applications pending before the court, yes, the court has a right to take whichever application and to dictate which process it takes first. What you call case management. You see, even if this case continues before that court and judgment is given against the defendant, going by the fact that there has been complaints prior to judgment, bordering on fair hearing, bordering on alleged bias, bordering on lack of confidence, it will be upturned. Because nobody will be able to understand why there is a complaint against your person and your ability or capacity to dispense justice, and you decide to sit tight. If there is nothing in the case, well, let's just hands off the case file, and then it goes to any other court.
Okay.
Yes, so that the parties can ventilate their case and then move on.
Okay. We want to also assume that, you know, the things you have stated right now are some of the implications of this particular judgment by Justice Ekaitobut.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I said I want to take that the things you have said so far, the backlash and of course the case not continuing in that particular court, as some of the implications of this particular judgment from the Chief Judge Ekaitobut.
Oh, definitely it is going to come to that, whether we like it or not. There is no way that case will continue in that court. no matter how we want to feel about it. There is no way, because you see, it would just mean that this is step one of violence in court. And so therefore we will make for the next phase of violence if we insist that the case must continue in that court. There is something about the case.
Anyways, for want of time, Barrister Akwan, for want of time, we want to thank you very much for coming on our show virtually to give us an explicit explanation as to this particular judgment and its implication. Thank you very much, Barrister Imo E. Akwan, legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, and also principal partner at Cardinali Chambers law firm. Thank you so much for your time this morning with us.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
And you too. Okay, so back here, it's been quite a revealing explanation. You know, sometimes the complexities around court judgments and all of that is something that knocks you off sometimes, except you're in that field before you can actually understand how those things work. But I'm happy that he was able to give us both sides of the story and both sides of, you know, what transpired in court. And true to fact that, you know, the media just jumped up on this particular news, not also wanting to like find out exactly what, you know, was the true situation of things. So the media only harped on what Barrister Inibehe at the time was, you know, beaming live from his Facebook page. So yeah.
Well, I think it's clear enough, because Barrister Akwan has given us the implication from both ends when it comes to what should be expected, you know, what will come out as a result of this judgment as given by the Chief Judge, Ekaite Obot, and then what is going to, and what might come off as an implication from Inibehe's end. We see that the trajectory over this case is actually going to take a different turn. Definitely. And we do hope that it takes a turn that is in favor of justice, whatever the justice yes, whatever the justice system was going to vet as justice for this case. But I mean, if a case has become as controversial as this, it becomes imperative for the court to begin to look for other ways to execute judgment, you know, fairly, you know. So anyone who goes to court must be favored, because it is the last hope of the common man. That's what the court is for. It's the last hope of the common man. So at this point, we just hope that, of course, we trust the NBA and other governing bodies of the judiciary to be able to step in and, of course, give the right direction as the case may be. Like Barrister said, Akwa Ibom is in limelight for some of the wrong reasons, and but we hope that we can navigate out of these murky waters. And we also want to thank you very much, Justin, for coming and sharing your very enlightened view about the situation.
Thank you.
All right then. So at this point, we'll take a very quick break, and then when we return, we will be bringing you the very last part of our show this morning. Do stay with us.
knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
Yes, thank you very much for being a part of our show this morning. It's been a very full one. Just before we went on that break, we were actually looking at the situation over the judgment given by the Chief Judge of the state who was presiding over a defamation case between Leo Effiong and the Governor of Akwa Ibom State, which has seen the counsel over the case being sent to 1 month imprisonment. Of course, we have seen the very expressive and in-depth analysis of the situation at hand by Barrister Akwa. Of course, we move up at this time to bring the rest of our show this morning, so we'll be taking our Did You Know segment.
So we could possibly say a group of parliamentarians on a lighter note, right?
Ooh, that's actually really revelatory, yeah?
Yeah. So
and if we'll be even African.
Yeah, if we want to think it from the African light, right?
What owls represent?
Yes, parliamentarians. Okay, so away from that, now we'll take our health tips. Anyways, they say too much of everything is bad, so more like too much of heat on your fish mates. It has its own bad effect. It could affect the health negatively, and that's why sometimes they say, look, if you want good meal, just put your fire, lower it a little bit.
Moderate heat.
Yes, moderate heat, so it steams into your food or whatever it is you're cooking, and not just that excess kind of heat.
And when your food has burnt, throw it away. As in, like some people just like to eat the bottom pot.
There are people that love bottom
of course, that is the risk. One of the risks. Eating that burnt part.
Heterocyclic.
I mean, yes, it's bad for you. I know I did it over the weekend, and I know it might be part of what I'm paying for. So, but then let's take our recipe of the day.
Our recipe.
my goodness, the eye that still carried.
Yeah.
Has sent me into interest zone.
The yellow pepperish, you know, kind of look. But that can serve as breakfast. It can serve as lunch, and of course as dinner too. So you can just try it. For people that don't like, maybe we'll consider that as heavy breakfast, but you can have it as lunch or dinner or something.
Yeah, of course, it would do even for brunch. But
Smoked
that's nice.
turkey stew with rice or any kind of carbohydrate. Yeah, maybe yam or plantain. Okay,
it's clear to me what I want to eat.
Yeah.
So let's take our quote of the day. When you train your eyes to see the magic and miracles in the little things, you open the door for your whole life to shift. Carol Woodlive, author. When you train your eyes to see the magic and miracles in the little things, you open the door for your whole life to shift.
Yeah, great one there. Great one. It just speaks about, you know, we taking cognizance of our little beginnings. Open your eyes to see the good in everything, no matter how little it is, no matter how sometimes bleak it could be, like you don't even know where this is leading you to, but because you believe in these little things that you're doing, of course it just opens your mind and your eyes to, you know, better things, and opens your life to better things as well. Okay, so this is where we draw the curtains. It's always difficult to say goodbye, you know, but hey, we just have to go, we just have to leave, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another very interesting edition of Rise and Shine. My name is Janice Cobham. Do have a great day.
Yes, today is a good opportunity to see miracles in every little opportunity. I remain Uyai Anyeka, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.